episodes. This is the first one we're doing as a crew live. On this episode, you have Matt De La Valle, MDV. You have Gabe Yanez, GY. And of course, you got Dennis Marshall, the DM man. And we are fired up to be here today. We're talking about PEDs. We're talking about the sugar diet. We're getting an update from MDV on that. I did see a request for what was happening on that because we talked about it on an episode about maybe a week or two ago. I just got back a couple hours ago from a lot of travel. Happy to talk about that. Dude, one thing is very clear to me. The men's club is resonating with people, and there are some very fit individuals out there. So if you're off the path, we are here on this podcast to get you back on it. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's go.
Yo, good morning. Hey, did you recruit some like fucking fitness models for that Richmond men's club or what? Every dude was ripped to shreds, like Gabe was saying the other day. I just looked at the picture. They're all like carved out of stone.
It was an impressive crew. It was a very impressive crew.
It's funny because, we've been hosting this men's club. I've been hosting a men's club for 2 years. And I think our crew in Los Gatos is pretty jacked, personally. But, dude, in Richmond, it was crazy because I'm in Richmond and we always, at the end, I always say to the guys, like, hey, look, my goal is to get as many people as possible, as many men, feeling confident and comfortable with their shirt off when they're with their lady, when they're at the beach with their family. That's the goal. And so at the end, we just take our shirt off to, like, get comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable with it, let's work towards that. And, dude, everybody there, there was just one or two exceptions, took their shirt off. I was like, oh shit, these guys are pretty jacked. So that's what happened. Yeah. I did not hire anybody off. I don't even know how you even hire anybody.
Missed connections.
I don't even know how you would find somebody like that.
Can I ask
you like a healthy user bias kind of scenario, right? Like the dudes that are going to show up for the men's club, kind of like
especially
on a whim,
traveling on the road. On the
road on a whim, just going to show up with a bunch of other dudes that they don't know to work out and probably take their shirts off. Are probably going to be pretty jacked. Right.
Yeah, this crew was pretty jacked. We're doing I'm doing Vegas on the 19th of this month. So in like a week or two, doing Vegas. So stay tuned for that. If you're interested and you're listening to the podcast right now, shoot me a message on Instagram. We'll also be putting up a story of the location and time. But the 19th is Vegas.
What changed for you, Jay? Because the shirt being off was not always your strong suit. You didn't really love taking your shirt off. You kind of grinded against it for a little bit. Gabe and I have been taking our shirt off for a minute here, flexing on whether it's Instagram or whatever. But, you were a little bit late to the party. So let's be honest. What changed for you about this? Because you're singing a little bit of a different tune these days.
I'm still not a huge fan of like, that's a good question. I think what's changed for me is that if we're gonna capture more attention and get more guys to jump on what we're trying to do and how we're trying to make an impact, and it draws more attention through the shirt off, like that's a step. Also, like, dude, I really align with the idea that in the beginning when we first started taking the shirt off, we had like maybe 10 guys do it, then 15, then 20. Now you got 40, 50 guys in Los Gatos taking their shirt off, and it's a sign that they're feeling more comfortable to take their shirt off in public. And like, there's something about that that's really meaningful to me. Like, I want a dude to show up, and I don't care what your body looks like. I just want you to feel confident in it. And so if you could show up to the beach with your lady and your family and you can take your shirt off and feel good, I mean, that makes me feel like we're doing something meaningful,
It's so funny though, because the context is super important for me now, and it's changed so much. I used to be, and Dennis can speak to this for sure. Like, we had a crew of people back across the Garden City that were like the shirts off before the workout starts.
Oh yeah.
Which, you think back on it and you're like, what are you doing? You're just taking it off to like, but in the moment too, is very much like everything that we do with like the clothes we wear or don't wear is like, we're communicating something out to people. And in that time, it was just kind of like like this is like who you are. It was in the culture. But now, dude, I am the last guy. I'm not taking my shirt off at all when I rarely drop into the gym here. Because again, like, it's families, it's all sorts of people. Like, to me, that just like makes no sense. And it's something that I have zero interest in doing. But so the context matter and all that has changed. I think when it comes to the men's club, it's just such a, like, one thing that we talk about is it's such I think important part of the first impression and what you communicate about like what matters to you, like your priorities. And again, I'm not saying that if someone doesn't look like super jacked, like they're chiseled out of stone, that they don't care about their health or whatever. But I think it is something that you should work towards it being something that you're not like trying to hide and you're confident behind. That doesn't mean you have to be super jacked or super lean, but it should mean that it's something that you're like proud to put out there. And I think that that's what has become so powerful and why people look forward to that picture at the end of the sessions, Jay.
Yeah, dude, I got a question for you guys because I've definitely, I was never like the super take off your shirt guy like in a CrossFit workout in particular, because a lot of times it would incorporate a barbell and I wanted the friction on my shoulder for when doing these movements, right? There's exceptions obviously, but I am curious because I just got back from Chicago and then I ended up doing some stuff with Customs and Border Protection. But in Chicago, we were in a conference room or a ballroom, MDV, right? And we had hundreds of people attending these workouts. Is it weird to take your shirt off with like 100 people in a ballroom doing a work? Like, what do you think, MDV? I mean, you were there. Is that weird?
Yeah, so first of all, we got to go to the Two Brain Business Conference over the past weekend. We got to speak to about like I don't even know how many coaches were in the room. 300 to 500 is a ton of people. Each morning, Jay and I ran a workout at 5 and 6 a.m. We had about 100 people for each workout, give or take. So those 5 a.m. signups were a little bit questionable.
Overzealous,
perhaps. I don't know. It was hot as fuck in that. It was hot in that ballroom, bro. It was pretty hot, and we got these people moving with some really good fitness. So there's no shame in the game for me. I think if you want to take your shirt off, if that's what makes you feel good, if you feel confident with it, I think the intent matters, like Gabe was saying a little bit. But also, like, maybe it doesn't. Maybe if that's what makes you feel good and you want to roll like that, that's fine. My tune has changed on this a little bit. So, like, I used to be a shirt off before the workout guy as well. I train a lot with my shirt off here at my apartment all the time. It's just very comfortable for me. It's like, feels good. It's nice weather here in San Diego. Get to be outside, don't have to get a shirt sweaty and stuff like that. But if I'm in a gym, 95% of the time my shirt's not coming off unless it gets like really gross and drenched anymore. But here at the beach, man, it's a little bit of a different vibe for me.
Dude.
All right, we got to get to the title of the episode here.
Yeah.
Sugar diet update. The people want to know, MDV.
People wanna know.
Where are we at? Where's the honey? Where's the baby food? How are you feeling?
Hey, wait, before he answers, we're in Chicago and they have honey packets at breakfast. We have like I don't know if it was a buffet or whatever. Yeah, it was a buffet. We're at, and this guy, dude, this guy grabs like 10 packets of
Hell
honey.
yeah.
And I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
Perfect travel food, bro.
He's like, it's the sugar diet. And so sure enough, so he grabs like, I don't know, 10 of them. And the lady's like looking at him and, no, the lady was cool.
Shout out to Patty, by the way. Patty runs
great.
the tightest ship of all time at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Shout out, Patty.
But dude, then I end up grabbing like 1 or 2 because I'm like, well, if MDV's doing it, I might as well grab a little bit of honey too.
Did you check the expiration date on those? Those things might have been from like the 80s.
They last forever, bro. Honey lasts forever.
I don't know.
All right, in all seriousness, this diet works for me. It works for me. And let me explain why. It's largely meat and fruit and honey. And those are the main components of what I eat anyway. Previously, before this, I was adding a lot more rice and potatoes, some vegetables, some other things here and there into the mix. A good amount of sourdough bread, which I still eat some sourdough bread, but like maybe putting it a little bit later in the day now. And I would feel very heavy all the time from having these bigger meals during the day. Typically for me, like I would wake up and I would have like steak, eggs, and potatoes. That was like a pretty standard meal for me for a very long time. And then have another meal of a similar style during the middle of the day, and then have another meal of a similar style later in the day. The main change for me here on this new approach to eating is that like I'm fueling with fruit and honey for the most part through waking period, through the middle of the day, and then I have a larger meal at night based around lean protein, fruit, and then adding some other starch in there, maybe some vegetables in there. So it's not really a tremendously far departure from what I normally do. My energy levels through the day are very, very high. I'm sleeping better. My body has definitely reduced body fat off of it. I can tell in the mirror I have lost body fat. I'm also waking up ready to go, if everybody knows what that means, which is a really good sign that your body's operating on some new shit, some higher level.
Gross.
And
Gross.
yeah. I thought this was the circle of trust.
All right.
I thought no. So for real, it works for me. It works for me. I think lifestyle-wise, it works for me. I also don't have as intense food cravings at night, which has been something that I've struggled with for a really long time. I've had really hard time, even when I was eating more meals during the day. After my final meal at night, I would be ravenous. And I've talked to Gabe a lot about this over the years. Just not able to stop eating at night. And fruit juice and honey really is getting me through a lot of the day. I don't have tremendous hunger during the day, and at night I feel ready to eat a meal. So for me, the way that I'm approaching it, nearly exactly that. Some of the other guys that are out there popularizing this diet or talking about it online, they're taking a little bit more of like a gimmicky angle with some of the candy, and I can't deny that I have partaken in some sour candy during this. I have tried some Sour Patch Kids. The watermelon Sour Patch Kids are phenomenal. And I'm not a big candy eater in general, so like that was a new thing for me, but I tried it. It's very sustainable for me. I enjoy it. It makes my food choices very easy. So I think in that regard, it works for me. I think the negatives of this, or the potential like downsides of this, are the fact that like you could get wrapped up in like eating a lot of just candy. Like I think people, the way that people might take this the wrong way is like just downing bags and bags and bags and bags of candy for quick fuel through the day. Probably not my optimal solution if you're looking to like get sugar into your system. Doing this through fructose, fruit, with fiber, obviously the whole fruit plus the juice has been the way that I've gone, and it's worked well for me. So that's my assessment so far. I don't know how much weight. I'm actually not down. I'm not down any weight. I weigh 170. I weighed myself at LA Fitness the other day, but I'm leaner for sure. For sure, I'm leaner.
How much, like, do you have a sense of like the quantity of, maybe not calories or grams of carbs, but like just overall fruit and fruit juice that you're consuming throughout the day?
A typical day for me is I wake up, I'll have a pretty large coconut water, and I'll have some sort of other fruit juice with it, whether it's one of those like blended fruit juices that are a little bit thicker, that have like the mango, the banana, the strawberry. The reason I'm not buying that every day, it's like $7.99 or whatever it is, like super expensive to buy those drinks. But I can buy like an apple juice, like a Martinelli's apple juice or a Tropicana orange juice, and I'll do that in the morning. I have been adding in like some light protein in the morning as well, like a couple of eggs or like some turkey, something like very, very lean. So I'm not doing it exactly as like Mark Bell or Josh Gold are saying to do this. I'm tweaking it definitely a little bit. Through the day, I don't really eat anything but fruit or honey, or like taking some like swigs of like maple syrup, which maple syrup and honey are pretty much like on the same level for me in terms of like when they're high quality. Both of those, for me at least, feel good. At the end of the day, some sort of leaner protein. Like last night, I had a pretty lean New York steak with fruit, with honey, and also some corn tortillas last night. I got some corn tortillas into the air fryer, and I ate that for dinner. And that was fantastic, and I felt pretty freaking great. So, yeah.
I missed the original episode when you guys talked about this, but to me, like, this all just, like, the headline from this reads like, guy who wasn't eating enough carbs adds carbs, feels better.
I don't know,
And
Gabe.
like that.
I knew you were gonna have a take on this, which would
Dude,
be a little bit
100%.
opposite
It's like-
to me, man.
it's like,
for
dude-
me, it's not a big change from what I was doing. It just is a different distribution of food through the day.
So is the thinking behind the sugar diet cutting out starches and replacing it with more simple sugars? Is that kind of the, because otherwise, what is the change aside from my carbs were here, now they're here, I feel better?
Well,
No. So, all right. Do you want to go ahead? I mean,
Dennis, go.
I mean, so there's like some legit research on it now that's come out since it has become popularized, where people are like better understanding the mechanism of why it's been working. And it's not just adding carbohydrate, it's the reduction in protein that actually releases a hormone that leads to a lot of the results that people are getting as far as fat loss. So it's called FGF21. and it's a hormone that's released when, I believe, like, I'm not an expert on this at all, so I'm going to butcher this a bit, and my understanding is pretty surface level, but like, so in the absence of amino acids, your body will release higher quantities of this hormone, and particularly in the presence of simple sugars, I think it like kind of amplifies the effect of it, if not forces it to release more of it. And when FGF21, when this hormone is released, it leads to like speeding up your metabolism. It leads to fat loss on like a metabolic level, like and utilizing fat as energy. What's that?
Utilization of fat as energy.
Utilization of fat, right. So it's not just the fact that you're increasing carbohydrates, but the type of carbohydrate does matter. Like it has to be simple sugars as opposed to a more complex carbohydrate, because the breakdown of it will inhibit the release of that hormone, and it won't release as much of it. Again, that was probably not a great explanation on a scientific basis, but that's my understanding of how it works.
If someone were to jump on this, then how much are you like cutting protein back?
Well, you go ahead.
What Mark recommends is like the maintenance level for protein he's talking about is about 80 to 100 grams of protein per day. So it's not like super low, but it's not the 1.5 or the 2. Yeah, it's low for sure. But like, so for me, from an intuitive perspective, I've slammed animal protein into my body more than any other macronutrient or type of food over the past 20 years till I was sick, literally sick. At times I'd be sick from eating too much protein, for sure. There have been nights when I'm like, 30 ounces of steak sounds like a good idea. 2 pounds of ground beef sounds like a good idea. And I always thought that was like, I hate to take a more isn't better, but I always thought like a more is better approach to animal protein. I'm not saying that I'm completely off the animal protein train. What I'm saying is that perhaps there's a way to eat, or there's an approach that is slightly lower protein that allows my body to find a more optimal state by utilizing this simple sugar through the day to get into fat utilization, and then allow myself to eat protein at night, which goes directly into muscle repair, muscle growth. That for me is at least my take on it, because I haven't lost any size doing this. Noticeable size on this diet, I haven't lost any. At a calorie level, I don't know, and I've never been a calorie counter, like it's not my favorite way to go. I don't know how many calories I'm ingesting right now. I could do, a pretty simple tracking to figure it out, but it's more for lifestyle. And in terms of lifestyle, it works really well for me, because there were times when I was eating these bigger, more like complex carb heavy meals, whether it was potato or rice based or bread based or whatever, that I'd need to sleep during the middle of the day, be so tired and feel so sluggish and feel so full. I don't have that bloating feeling or full feeling like nearly at all anymore. And that might be a result of eating just more fiber, getting more fiber into my system, having more fruit into my system that's allowing me to use like that fructose as fuel, and then also use the fiber to increase like the digestive properties of the things that I am eating. I don't know. It's working for me. I like it. Fruit is fucking delicious. I like eating lean protein. It just feels good for me. So like I could understand how someone would look at it and go like, hey, this is kind of disordered. But I was hitting up Dennis the other day, maybe like a week ago, and I was like, bro, we have so much access to food all the time. Like we have so much access to food in the Western modern environment. Like food is always there. And I think probably throughout most of human development, food wasn't always there. Like we had to go and hunt and gather. We had to go grab. We had to like utilize things. And for me, this kind of represents a little bit more of like a natural way of eating. It feels more natural to me than like waking up and like putting a big piece of steak on a plate plus like potatoes plus bread plus fruit. Not a bad meal at all. I'm not saying that that's a bad meal. I'm just saying that like it's this way that now that I've tried both, this feels a bit more natural to me. I feel better eating this way than I would eating the other way.
Oh man, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I'm going to try it.
What does that mean changing for you, Dan? Like, again, same thing, kind of just a little less protein than what you're currently doing, and more, are you currently not eating a bunch of fruit, and that would be something you're upping? Honey, What does that
No,
look like?
I eat a good amount of carbs. I don't restrict carbs that much. I mean, I generally will choose fruit. I eat a lot of fruit. I mean, like probably on average 4 or 5 pieces of fruit a day. I'll generally have a serving of starch, if not two, in the form of like rice or potatoes. So I'm not eating like a super low carbohydrate diet, but I eat like three fairly large balanced meals throughout the day: breakfast, lunch, dinner. So it would just be really shifting all the protein to the end of the day. Yeah, I mean, it would, and eliminating the starches, I suppose, until the very last meal.
You know what's
And what
interesting about this whole conversation, right? Is that you could be in the fitness space for 20 years, longer, and now all of a sudden we're talking about, incorporating things like maple syrup, honey, and potentially even candy. And, I don't know. I guess sitting back and just listening to you guys talk about this, it just makes me realize like a year from now, what else are we going to be discussing? A year from now, what else are we going to be testing? And it
well,
just goes to show that when it comes to nutrition, just like training, right? There's no one size fits all. You need to evaluate different things and learn what works for you. Because I'll tell you, dude, I know for me with the TH45 challenge, getting in 50 grams of protein to start the day has been really helpful for me and many other people.
For sure.
And so I guess that's my big takeaway is like, dude, like I think we, especially people in the industry, should be testing different things and then articulating why something is working for us for a period of time. But again, being completely open-minded to trying new things and see if we're feeling good. Not to mention your body changes all the, every 7 years, whatever, resets and whatever. You got to find what works for you at this given time as well.
the best thing you can do is self-experiment and try new things if you don't feel like you're feeling as good as you should be feeling, because there are different things that are going to work for different people, and you don't know until like you try it for yourself. It's the most potent thing you can do. Generally, what I still like really high protein, generally for people that are trying to lose weight because of the satiety aspect. This hormone stuff, I'll look into it a little bit more. It's definitely interesting, but that's where I like a little bit higher protein for most people. I do though, and I changed my tune on this probably like a few years back, because I always thought you needed super high protein to build muscle. And in the research, like you really don't. Like you get very, very diminishing returns on anything. Like for me specifically, as like I float around like 170 to 180, maybe on the lighter side when I'm like, trying to gain muscle. Like 150, 140 is plenty. And I've done that in the past. And then you take all that extra and just pump it into carbs, because it's so much more about the energy you can bring to your workouts than, having that much protein. The higher protein actually tends to benefit people that are trying to cut or lose for satiety aspects versus people that are trying to put on muscle. Whereas and I'm sure a lot of people listening always thought, oh, if I want to build muscle, like more is better when it comes to protein. But man, I mean, carbs are just, got wrongly vilified for so long, both in like kind of like maybe the paleo CrossFit community, but really big in the endurance community for a while. I mean, there was a big kind of like fat adaptive, like keto. They bring it up in the book Endure, and that's been like very, very much debunked. And now like the pendulum is swinging like completely in the other direction, where I talked to you about that ultra marathoner. Like now runners and anyone in endurance sports, they're trying to figure out how many grams of carbs can you consume per hour. Like they're trying to push like 75 grams per hour, 100 grams per hour. And it's about like literally, if you can stomach it, great. It's just more fuel for you to put out there. So it's interesting how these things shift for sure.
So the one thing about the satiety aspect of this, I don't feel hungry. I don't feel hungry. I think the fruit and the fiber from the fruit and eating whole fruit is keeping me very, very full.
And the water content.
Yeah.
Water content, right? I'm drinking I still drink a good amount of water. And also the quick access to energy, I can feel it almost right away. Like if I'm putting honey or maple syrup into my body, like half hour before a workout, like I feel really, really good during my workout. And at this, like, it's not fucking rocket science. Your body's using that sugar to help fuel the workout. But also, Jay, you're saying like, oh, we're going to relook at this stuff. We're eating honey and maple syrup now. Honey and maple syrup are probably fucking superfoods that people have been eating for thousands of years to feel better, and have probably been parts of medicines or healing methods for a really long time. I would need to go in and do some more research about that in particular, but like, I don't think that those foods, I mean, you can certainly get them that are like highly processed, tons of artificial sugar. And then I'm not saying go that route. I'm saying find really good honey. Go like find somebody who's raising or cultivating bees. Go get some really good organic or like direct from the source maple syrup. And I think those things can be definitely incorporated into a diet that's well rounded.
Or free packets from a hotel.
Or free
Or
packets.
free.
The
Or
craft
free.
free
Yeah.
packets
Or
from the
Dude,
hotel.
they were like Smucker's brand or something. It was good. But you know,
There's no way that's honey. 0% chance that's honey.
Actually,
No way.
it said pure honey on it, so like I believe everything's
no chance.
advertised.
Yeah.
I take it all at face value.
Oh,
But
dude,
Gabe,
they
to your
had a
point,
really
though, like-
interesting documentary on that. Honey is like a huge
big-
source.
yeah.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah,
what?
there's a lot of
There's
sketchy
a lot of
shit
fake
going on.
honey out there. There's fake honey and there's fake booze out there.
So
Those
much
two
fake
things
honey.
are being created in mass in like Asia and then shipped to the United States and being sold as, in particular, the documentary that Gabe's talking about is about honey. They're creating like artificial honey, fake honey, and then marketing it as like real high grade honey. But actually, one of the dudes who is in the Train Hard community, his name right now off the top of my head is escaping me, hit me up via Instagram, and he raises bees in Iowa. He's like the head of the bee consortium in Iowa, and sent me honey, and it was fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
Oh,
yeah, he could have killed me. It could have been poison because I ate it right away without testing it. But like,
That's
dude sent me
fantastic.
some good honey.
Wait, but hey, Gabe, just real quick on the carb note, I do think like, especially in CrossFit with paleo and stuff, there was like this negative stigma. And I'll never forget the first time I sat down with Chris Hinshaw, he's like, bro, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, when I'm doing my like Ironmans, he's like, he goes, one time I was in Brazil and I had them bring me a liter of Coke and I drank it as I was running. Like, it's just, carbs are such a fascinating tool for the endurance community. I think for some reason in CrossFit, it got kind of like, you know what I mean? Like something happened there.
Well, what happened was clear. It was the CrossFit prescription for nutrition is very clear. Eat lean meat, vegetables, fruit, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some starch, no sugar. That was the CrossFit prescription for nutrition. That was what we learned. That's what's taught at the level 1. Meat, vegetables, nuts and seeds, fruit, some starch, no sugar.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Well, which is fine in the context of trying to promote health for someone that does one workout a day, 4 or 5 days a week, and that's all they do. And other than that, they have a fairly low activity lifestyle, right? Like that's fine. But if your training volume is relatively high in volume, you're doing multiple workouts, of course, across the course of a day, and a week and a month, and it all adds up in terms of volume, and you're laying on additional endurance work on top of that, like the carbohydrates become more and more and more important the more your training intensity and volume increases, for sure.
Well, Glassman was also he also famously kind of started quoting, get off the carbs, get off the couch, right? Like that was the secondary tagline to his nutrition approach. And I think when that's being said, that's not really talking about fruit. I think that's talking about like Entenmann's, that's talking about donuts, that's talking about those.
Yeah.
Like that's what they mean when they say get off the carbs, get off the couch. They also probably are saying don't eat a tremendous amount of like highly processed bread. But I'd be kind of surprised if anybody worth their salt in the CrossFit community looked at me in the face and said, no, we mean don't eat any fruit. That's not what they mean.
No.
Yeah. It's really fascinating how all this has changed. So where do you think the future of okay, continue on with what you're doing. Obviously, Dennis is going to test some things out. I'm curious, just like as an outsider, is it do you think your calories, I'd be curious if you started tracking your calories, MDV, if the calories actually reduce significantly because of the consumption, right? And is it a calorie thing, or is it this like, I don't know, Dennis, you were busting out the encyclopedia, so I don't even know what you were talking about, but
Sorry.
I'm really, what was it called? Like the beat, like
FGF 21.
FB, whatever, 21.
A hormone. It's a hormone.
Yeah.
We should hit up our boy Mark Bell,
Yeah, we're gonna have him on.
and we should do a live home team podcast with Mark Bell, and let's have him talk about it. Let's have him talk about the whole thing, because he's like the main guy behind it right now. He's certainly the main guy, which is a big change in his tune, because a couple of years back he was like the no carbs are going to kill you guy.
He was a war on carbs, and he created his own war on carbs, and he created his own like carnivore supplement that was just like meat basically, like I mean, but you know what? One thing about Mark is
Not
he's
afraid to
explored,
experiment.
dude. He's gone from being a 300-pound power lifter or whatever it was to now he's like right around 200 pounds and a runner, and he's done a bodybuilding. So he's not afraid to experiment with things.
And he's also not afraid to admit when he admit that he was wrong about things, which is really, really admirable because he was flying that flag of, war on carbs for a long time. And now he's, eating Skittles out of a Tupperware, before his workout.
I might be wrong though, but I think you can get the same effect as far as the release of that hormone if your fat intake is, as long as your protein intake is super low, that hormone will be released. And I think if you were eating like really high fat exclusively throughout the day and almost no protein, like ketogenic with no carbs, I think you would still get the same release, maybe not to the same effect, but that's the same release of that hormone, which could then still have the same effect on fat storage and fat utilization for energy and still lose weight. So the mechanism might not be that different as to why each of those strategies would work, depending upon the type of activity you engage in also though.
But net, it'd be way easier to overeat calories if you're consuming pure fat throughout the day. Like if you're fucking chomping down on sticks of butter,
yeah,
which was also a trend in the community for a while, right? Like just eating butter.
Right.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you could very quickly get into a land where you're eating almost too many calories for your body to even fathom processing.
Right, and it's very hard to just eat fat exclusive of protein also. So it's much trickier.
Yeah.
And I think there's also been like a, again, pendulums always swing completely in the other direction, but I think that a lot of people did get into, at least anecdotally from people I've heard and even like myself, like, okay, does eating fat like 1-for-1 impact LDL and cholesterol and all those stuff? Like, okay, maybe not 1-to-1, but there's definitely, I think, a point where it starts impacting that stuff negatively. At least anecdotally it did for me, and I know I've talked to other people that it did. So the fact that you can have unlimited saturated fat and it not impact cardiovascular health, I think is something that's very, very much debunked as well. And that was like a big talking point when carnivore and keto was really big, was, oh, this stuff isn't it? Like it's all the carbs. And I think that, again, all of this is going to vary from person to person, but there's some people that absolutely that impacts them.
I mean, then you start to get into like whether or not, like, so LDL and HDL certainly are found to be correlative to, CHD, heart disease. But then you look at somebody like my profile on this. I have higher cholesterol. I have a very, very good ratio between the two, though. Like my ratio of the LDL to HDL is very, very good. I have a very, very low VLDL. I have very, very low triglycerides. My insulin is pretty low, not like super, super high. It's not like 0, but it's low. My fasting glucose is pretty low. It's like around 90, 88, 90. It used to be much higher, or not much higher, but like, so is that just because my cholesterol is a little high, but all those other things are good? Is that necessarily like put me at risk for these things? I don't know. I think that's one of the questions that I've kind of talked to a lot of people about. Like, because every time I go to the doctor, she's like, your cholesterol is kind of high. Not crazy high. It's just outside the normal of what the doctor would look at on the bands that they have for the test. Just the combined number.
You got to get that. You got to get that little b number tested.
That number's low too.
Yeah, and but that's what matters. Atia has so much content on this because ApoB is a much more expensive test that isn't generally done.
Does Blokes test that?
ApoB, no, it doesn't. And not in the basic one, at least. I think it might in like the more extensive ones, because that's the problem. It's a very specific test that isn't done unless you usually like specifically request it. And my understanding, I went down a deep rabbit hole because I was helping my mom with her blood work because she had very, very high cholesterol. And essentially like the TLDR of it, at least with all the Atia stuff that I went through, is your LDL, even your LDL amount tells you how much, of this cholesterol is in your bloodstream. But within that cholesterol, ApoB is the actual like type of whatever, like lipoprotein in the LDL that leads to plaque buildup. So you can have a lot of LDL cholesterol, but if you have a very low ApoB, you don't actually have the thing that creates plaque buildup in most people, but that's a very specific test. Some people genetically just have a lot of LDL circulating in their blood, but it doesn't mean that they have the thing inside that LDL that actually leads to plaque buildup in your arteries, but that's a very specific test. Now, does that mean that if you have low LDL, you're good? Usually, which is why they don't do additional testing. But like what I helped my mom do was her numbers were really high, but we went super specific and got some very specific blood tests done. She's also doing the calcium score, like the actual like full body MRI to actually see, because then that's
The
like
scan of the arteries and
that's the
heart.
end all be all.
What's that?
It's a scan of the arteries
a-
of the heart to
yeah, it's a
measure how
C-
much calcium buildup is on
It's a CAC, and it's another like very specific test that you have to like seek and try and like get done. And you know, it's if you go through insurance, like it's a nightmare, because if you go through insurance, you have to get like a referral, go to a specialist, get it done. We found out that if you just like call the radiology department at a hospital and you're like, hey, like we want to get this test done and pay cash, it's actually so much cheaper and so much less of a headache. Dude, we can go into like how much of a
It's about
shit show.
It's about $100 to get it
Yeah.
done without insurance.
Without
to get it done through
insurance.
insurance is more complicated.
How does that make any sense?
Dude,
It is
don't even get me fucking started on
mind-blowing.
insurance right now, because we could rant this whole podcast.
I just
on
went
how
through that
deep
whole
rabbit hole.
process.
This is a
I went through
deep
that whole
rabbit hole.
process trying to help my mom, and it was infuriating because literally
bro.
everything got easier and cheaper as soon as we just like, she has insurance, but it was like, we're just going to pay cash. Like literally you just call up the radiology department. You're like, I want to schedule this test. You don't need a referral. You don't need anything. But again, you need to like know what you're asking for and know why you're asking for it. Luckily now, because of things like AI, you can like research all this stuff and it's actually like super, super useful. But man, yeah, super frustrating, because if she would have gone the traditional route, just in copays alone, she would have paid like double, triple. And that's
Right.
copays in addition
Yeah.
to the insurance.
Yeah, we don't have insurance anymore. Our family.
Yeah,
We use
same.
the crowdfunding.
What's that?
CrossFit
Wait,
one. CrossFit came out with the CrossFit
Oh,
Medical.
The
Oh,
R,
geez.
not the RG. That was something different.
No. It's through something called Crowd Health, and it's like self-funded. It's a self-funded insurance pool, basically. So the members all pay in a monthly fee, and then pay each other's medical bills as the need arises. You're responsible for up to $500 for all of your medical incidents, but anything up above that qualifies is paid for by the pool of fundees. Yeah, so we're like all cash pay. We don't like
Bro.
if we go to the doctor and they ask us for insurance, we say we're going to pay cash. We don't have insurance.
Another crazy example of that really quick, because we had friend that had a baby right around the same time that we had Shay, and we went fully cash paid with like, because we had a home birth, so we had like, we paid for a midwife, a doula. None of that is covered through insurance, so we like paid for it all up front. And that was less than what our friends were paying through insurance. And then God forbid you have like a NICU stay or anything, the amount that you are paying, and obviously like, you know, those don't compare apples to apples because that is an emergency situation. But even if you didn't have any of that, if you look at the line items of what it's costing you to have a hospital birth
It's
that
insane.
insurance would cover, and then you pay for some of it, it is insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
The worst is the negotiations, dude. I mean, we've talked about this on the show. Like, I can't, dude. The first bill we got when Ava got sick was $450,000, and then, I mean, we've racked up millions of dollars in
Dude,
medical.
and then
bills.
like you're in the moment too, you're just like, they take so much advantage of like the fact
Yeah,
that like
it
regardless,
plays a role. Just to play a little bit of devil's advocate, like for me and our family, like insurance has been critically
Sure.
important.
100%, 100%.
For like these major incidences, it's been like it's been absolutely necessary. I think though, where it comes tough is like, dude, for most people, most of the time, especially that are healthy and whatever, it's. Anyways,
Dennis,
it's
do-
like a whole thing.
Dennis, do you know how does something like Crowd Health handle those cases, like the very kind of extreme emergency cases? How do they still cover that type of stuff?
Yeah, they would still cover it. Yeah, as long as it's a qualified incident, which that would qualify for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Heard a lot.
like you get a notification every month of what you're going to be, what additional money they're going to ask for, and what it's going towards. And we've like funded a childbirth. We've funded chemotherapy for breast cancer. And I mean, most of the stuff is like, minor little stuff that pops up, but we've had a couple of relatively bigger ones that we've seen come across.
Just really quickly, this Achilles surgery that I had. So I have a health insurance policy that allows me to have a $500 deductible, but then there's an out-of-pocket max attached to the plan that is exponentially higher than that, which essentially is just a different way to frame your deductible, because you end up fucking paying the out-of-pocket max when you have a procedure like this.
For
so
sure.
It's insurance. Cool, I get it. I pay for insurance. Then there's co-insurance. And the co-insurance is like you're liable for up to 20% of all of the charges until your out-of-pocket max is hit. So when you have a procedure like a surgery where they're charging you through the fucking ass on everything, through the hospital, the doctor's fees, the anesthesia, multiple bills for the same things between two people, by the way. Charge for anesthesia over here and then charge for the anesthesiologist over here. Trust me, I went through all of this and I'm like livid that this cost me so much money out of pocket to handle. And the fact that I have a pretty premium plan, it's pretty much a racket. And I'm not trying to incite any sort of like revolution here or like tell anybody to go do anything stupid, but like the system is definitely not operating in a way that is beneficial towards the end user.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
But but again, playing devil's advocate on that, right? You got Achilles surgery and then you had your hip. So you've reached your max out of pocket for the year, right? So now you know your total exposure for the year would be, let's just safe to say I'm at $5,000. But if you were self-funded, I mean, the thing that Dennis is talking about is unique. It's different. But like in regards to like,
it would be a disaster if I didn't have insurance.
Yeah, it'd be a disaster.
You'd have to pay a ton of money. You have to have some sort of solution here.
You have to have a solution
that Dennis has, or a solution of a traditional insurance plan. Because I think you leave yourself liable to like pretty massive amounts of bills that would come through if you did have a pretty critical incident that needed acute care. For sure. So I mean, dude, I'm the first one to say that there needs to be something that adjusts, but at the same time, like assurance has saved our ass. I mean, will they cover colonics since they're charging that? I hope they do. I need another one.
Jay's asking if they're going to cover colonics. On the podcast a little bit ago, we talked about colonics. Dennis has had his. MDV has had his.
Yeah.
I have not currently explored the options available to me in the Bay Area. Gabe, have you?
Oh, there's definitely some good options in the Bay Area.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Dude,
but because of the podcast title, I do want to make sure that we touch base on, before we started recording, Dennis briefly mentioned BPC 157. And
let's go.
Full disclosure, right? Through our partners at Blokes, I was trying BPC 157 as an oral supplement to help with recovery. So I currently do not take Enclomiphene, testosterone, any of it. I don't take anything, but I wanted to try and see if it would help with my gut and also with my knees for recovery. I used BPC 157 oral for like a month, and then I just stopped. I also tried a nasal spray called VIP nasal spray, VIP. But I stopped that after like 2 weeks because it started making me feel almost like in vertigo a little bit. And so I stopped taking that. That was also supposed to be for recovery. But anyways, now I'm on nothing. So that's where I'm at.
You get all the lame stuff in California, man. It's overregulated.
Dude, I could get, bro, come on. I know a guy who knows a guy. It's like saying
it is, though.
10-round magazines in California. Come on. I mean,
dude, it 100% is, though. I talked to Josh from Blokes too. Like, we have access to so much more stuff because it would be shipping to Texas versus shipping to California. Like, it 100% is true, dude.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah. All right. So Dennis, what are you doing?
So, all right. So the story behind this is my wife, she's currently dealing and has been dealing for the past couple of years with like pretty chronic symptoms of like perimenopause, going through that whole process right now. And she's been dealing with like just chronic aches and pains that just won't go away. And like every day she wakes up, it's like a mystery as to what's going to hurt today. And she's been dealing with like shoulder stuff, neck stuff, hip stuff, back stuff. And it's like starting to drive her nuts. And it's fairly common, people that go through that stage of life that they go through something like this, but hers is like, it's really wearing her down. So one of our members is an RN. She has some experience personally and also working with people in prescribing BPC 157 and other peptides with pretty good success. So she was recommending that Jen try it. Jen was like consulting with her doctors, and they were like certainly open to it. They didn't outright prescribe it for her, but they were certainly open to her trying it. And then she was kind of leery of it. She was a little hesitant, and I was like, I'll do it first. I'll guinea pig it for you, the wonderful husband that I am.
Yeah, I'm doing this for you. Yeah, I'm doing this for you.
Right, because she'll feel much more comfortable if she sees me experience it and kind of how I handle it. So yeah, I took one for the team. I jumped on the grenade, and I started taking it at the beginning of last week. And it's an injectable form, super high quality from what I understand as far as the source that I got it from. I don't know that much about it. I just blindly accepted it and said, okay, yeah, this looks fine. And yeah, so I took it, I took it for 5 days. She recommended I do it 5 days on, 2 days off, like one, I guess, what is it, 1 milliliter, I guess. I don't even know how the needles work. You just pull it down to 1. And I swear, I've been dealing with pretty regular, like chronic low back pain, like SI joint pain for like a solid, probably like 2 years now, where it's like every day I wake up, it's stiff. It takes me a while to kind of loosen it up. Certain movements kind of aggravate it, and it kind of gets hot and cold throughout the week. But like every single morning I wake up, and the first thing I experience as I get out of bed is like a stiff low back. And it's just like always there, and it's fine, it's tolerable. It doesn't really prevent me from doing anything. And I swear on the 4th day, I'm like up and about in the gym, just kind of working, doing my thing. And I'm like noticing that I'm not really feeling it. And I'm like, this is interesting. Like maybe it's just a good day. And then the 5th day on Friday, I woke up and I got out of bed, and for the first time in I don't know how long, I didn't feel anything at all in my low back.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and I was
where
like,
are you injecting it at? Sorry, just quick note.
Well, she recommended I try to inject it as close to the site of pain as possible.
Right.
But it's a tricky spot to do by yourself. It's like the top of my SI joint, like right in the middle of my low back. Oh. So to pull that off, she was like, if you can't do it, just use like a love handle, like the just subcutaneous fat in the belly. So I've just been alternating sides, left, right, just right down in the belly.
And it's a subcutaneous injection, right? Not intramuscular, not into the muscle, into the fat.
Into the fat, right? Yep, yeah, and that's what I've been doing. And so today, and then I took the weekend off, and it's funny because I took the 2 days off, and then kind of the back pain started coming back a little bit, and now today was day 2 of doing it again. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen over the course of the next few days if it goes away again.
Dan, anything weird about injecting yourself?
It was at first. It took me like an embarrassingly long amount of time to like do the first one. Like I'm like, and I've injected before, not myself, but I used to have to give some treatments to Jen. So I got pretty proficient in injecting a needle. But when you do it to yourself, there's just something weird about it. So I'm like holding it on my skin, just like looking at it. And I'm like, how hard do I push? Do I just like jab it? Do I like slowly? So, you get the hang of it though.
I thought we were going to get some New York Sports Club or Equinox injecting people in the locker room. That's what I thought was coming next.
I buried that deep in my that doesn't get remembered anymore.
So I've used it too with I think like success too. It's always tough to tell because it's the same time where I was like resting it and doing all the other stuff for it. But I used it both for the nerve pain that didn't let me do the last marathon. And then I had some left, so I used it for some, like, I had a really bad plantar fasciitis flare up this time around. And that sucked because, there's no fat in the bottom of your foot. And so, injecting it in, like, an inch from your heel was just, like, that was not fun. I almost, like, didn't want to keep doing it because injecting it was so sucky. But, dude, I don't know, man. And I have no baseline to test it because it was an acute injury. It wasn't like yours where it was like, hey, I've always had this and clearly like it finally got better. For me, it was like, I have this, I'm resting, I'm not running anymore, I'm also using this. So I don't know if it got better quicker because of it or whatever, but it felt like, stuff got better pretty quick once I started using it. But yeah, man, I mean, I've heard now from too many people kind of exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Like nothing's worked. 4 or 5 days, and it's like, whoa, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So now do you cycle
like
it on, Dennis?
Yeah. So she recommended 5 days on, 2 days off. Do it for like 3 months. Go off it for a while. Maybe try like a different peptide. What's the other one? TB500, I think. That oftentimes people use with it.
So I used before I had my hip surgery, when my hip was really bad. This was when I was up in Washington. I was prescribed combination of BP 157 and TB 500, and this was also at the same time that I tried PRP, platelet-rich plasma, that therapy, to see whether or not I could get the pain to reduce. And I did have reduction in pain, but ultimately it didn't, because the injury was pretty, or the arthritis was pretty aggressive in my hip due to congenital defect. It didn't really help long term, but there was definitely reduction of pain for sure. I would like to see whether or not, because Dennis, I'm like you, I kind of wake up sometimes and I'm like tight, and I don't know why I'm tight. My low back is kind of tight, like, you know.
Is it your bed?
I have a nice mattress. I'm actually, we can get into talking about this. I have a really nice mattress. I spent a good amount of money in buying a nice mattress this time around. But I also think it's like a lifetime of fitness and, you know, doing a lot with my body. And I do have some bilateral facet stuff going on in my L4, L5, or L5S1 that I've been treated for. So, you know, some stuff there, just a lifetime of fitness that's also kind of catching up to me.
Dude,
Getting
Ashley and
old,
I need to
man.
get a new mattress because I want a hard mattress and she wants a soft mattress. And so I end up half the time sleeping on the floor. And so we got to figure it out. It's not sustainable.
I have
Let's
thought
just put
many
that way.
times about getting like a Japanese mattress and just kind of doing the whole floor thing.
Yeah, because my back hurts if I'm on too, like, in my mattress, dude, I got this from like, I think it was called Reverie from like 15 years ago or something in CrossFit. They sent it to me and we've just kept it because Ashley likes it, but it's way too soft for me. So anyways, side note.
MDV, my like very crude understanding of what the BPC is like most helpful with is like rebuilding collagen, like reformatting. So for injuries where there's just like nothing to rebuild anymore, like it's like way past the point, that's where it's obviously not going to help, but it is good for like acute or chronic stuff that's just either inflammation, because it's also very anti-inflammatory, or like when I did a bunch of research on the plantar fasciitis, like there were definitely like the flare up I got was to the point where there were micro tears there, but it was very helpful because it's still obviously intact enough where it's rebuilding, so it should be speeding that up. Was at least my understanding of it in what I read. But
Well, I mean, I hit up my boy Jay Khalipa maybe a couple of months ago to ask for a connection to our guys at Blokes, and I never heard anything back.
oh
So,
no,
Oh, boy.
yeah, oh,
Wait,
sorry.
Hey, did that sandbag arrive yesterday?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm giving Jason a hard time. Yeah. There we go. Jason Claus over here. Thank you very much for the sandbag. I
Wait, but
appreciate
speaking
it.
of, I was talking to Josh, honestly, and I was talking about Enclomiphene because a lot of the guys at the men's club have started, not a lot, when I say a lot, take that with a grain of salt. Some people at the men's club have started taking Enclomiphene in oral. I think it's like,
Yeah, it's a pill.
yeah. And dude, these guys are seeing incredible results. They're watching their testosterone boost up. And he was making the claim, because I was telling him, I was like, hey, my main goal is just to like heal up my knees. I just want my knees to get better because it's impacting my jiu-jitsu. And he's like, dude, a good option might be the Enclomiphene, might help your overall testosterone, may help your overall recovery. So it's something that I'm like debating on, but I have not pulled the trigger on any of that stuff.
So Enclomiphene versus injectable TRT. Enclomiphene can give you like a double number compared to where you're at. It can, like that, like usually the max effect of this, again, I'm kind of speaking from just my rough understanding of this stuff. Like if you're at 200, sometimes it can take you to like 400 or 500 ml of testosterone, right? Which is a pretty significant increase versus where you're at. But it wouldn't give you the type of testosterone number that the daily or semi-daily injectable testosterone, the synthetic hormone, would give you, which can get you very, very, very high depending on the number of injections, or like how much testosterone you're injecting. But honestly, the gold standard for some of this stuff is just how you feel.
How you feel.
Yeah, exactly. How do you feel? How do you feel? What do your numbers look like? Are you like
ready to go in the mornings?
Yeah, so the morning wood.
Dude, the ready
It's a good
to go.
indicator of how you feel.
It is.
man.
It is.
Dude, you got to wake
I don't
up
think the sugar
happy.
diet had anything to do with that. Like,
It could.
Dude,
That should be the
Like-
title of the podcast.
happy, hungry, and horny. You got to wake up. Happy, hungry, and horny. It's
There
true.
we go, man.
oh man. Yeah, so Dennis is trying the BPC 157. I currently, like I said, I've done the oral. I'm not doing anything, but I do have in my refrigerator right now something that I got that is supposed to help my needs.
Stuff
What was
doesn't
it?
last forever, by the way. You should
Oh,
definitely
Just
look
keep it
into
in the
that
fridge
stuff.
for a while.
yeah. It's some injectable to help the recovery because, like these guys are saying, my testosterone is not great. If you haven't had your blood work done, by the way, our friends over at Blokes, you can check out the podcast show notes. They offer this full panel for $75. Just jump on there, check out our code, because if you don't know your blood work, I actually just had my blood work done again last week for a life insurance policy. So I'm really interested to see if I get the highest ranking for this policy. I'll have to let you guys know on the podcast. I've not received the results yet. Um, but if you
Blokes,
haven't had
hit
your
me
blood
up.
work, with yeah, that, yeah,
I said, blokes, hit me up. Need
yeah,
that BPC 157, please.
and then but back to the blood work is that then you can look at your testosterone numbers, look at these different things, and see, hey, how am I feeling? You know, like my testosterone's low; it's at 520, but I feel excellent. So, you know, is there an area of
That's not mega low.
That's not
mega
low though. That's low. That's low on like, you know, because we've talked about this too, and we talked about this with Josh at Blokes. Like a lot of these companies, they give you these reports, and what is optimal has moved a little bit to the right for sure, because they're trying to quote unquote optimize. Because I'm in the same ballpark. I think I was like 520, same thing, but like symptoms wise, like all good, man. And I do think that like that. I don't know. I don't think it's low. A lot of that I think is shifted based on these reports. But
Well,
again, it just depends on how
comparatively
you
to like
feel.
20 or 30 years, maybe even a little bit more than that. I
Yes,
think the numbers have shifted. The band of the number have shifted from what normal is now to what normal was a few decades ago. I think a few decades ago, it's pretty widely agreed that the normal range for testosterone in young, healthy men was higher. Now, a lot of young, healthy men, I'm talking like in your 20s, maybe even in like the teen, like 18, 19, a lot of those guys are testing much, much, much lower in like the 400s, the 300s, the 200s. And although some of those might be still considered normal within the band, again, I am not an expert on this. I'm just talking out my ass a little bit right now. What those numbers show is that there's something happening where we're seeing this downward trend in testosterone just generally across the board.
what'd you
All right,
find,
so-
Gabe? I saw you looked it up.
Mean testosterone in men's, I just typed something, you know, to give us a baseline. Men 30 to 39, starting every decade from the 1960s. So 1960s, 630, 1970s, 620, 1980s, 6. So kind of like a drop. It has shown a drop, and now it says that the average for 30 to 34 in the 2010s is 456. The average for 35 to 39 is 438, and the average total for men in their 30s is 447. So
That's pretty
consistent
significant
downward
if you're
trend.
talking like 620, right? 620 to 420-ish.
Yeah, from the 1960s.
You know what the solution is? We just need to train hard. That's it. We need to train early and train hard. This is the first day I could think of in a very, very long time today, full disclosure, that I have not already gotten in my burpees in months. So I got to go get my burpees in today.
In my redemption tour, I've been doing it exclusively post dinner. And I found that, at least for me,
Sounds terrible.
like just like good, bad, or indifferent, whatever, dude, I have a training plan, and like it throws such a screw in everything, even to do 45 burpees. You guys can make fun of me about it. I know it's like insignificant or whatever, but it just feels like something else I have to do in the morning as part of my training. We finished dinner. The kids jump in. It's like a madhouse. It's fun.
That's cool.
Like we get it done, and I haven't missed a day. Which is just another example of like you know, you'll hear that and you'll be like, oh my god, like how could you possibly wait until after dinner? I did it one day honestly because I like waited afterwards, and I was like, this is perfect. Like it's just like it literally turns into like after dinner playtime.
Yeah.
Because they're like climbing on me and like whatever. We get them done, but you know, it's just a way to work it in that doesn't feel like, oh god, I have to do this thing before I have to do all these other things that I have lined up for my training that I like am very, very looking forward to. So anyway,
It's
but
also
I've
a
been-
great way after a meal
Yeah.
to like move your body and
One of the
slow
best things you
digestion.
can do is move after a meal.
For
One of the best
sure,
things
for
you can
sure.
do.
When
Don't have
Jason
to
and
be
I
burpees, could be a walk. Yeah.
We presented this weekend, man. We presented right after the lunch period for these guys. And, you know, when they're at the summit, they're going out and they're having like Chipotle or heavy meals or tacos or whatever. And like the first thing that we did with this group of 300, 400 coaches is Jay got him moving through some air squats, man. And that like was not only great to like wake them up a little bit, but also spur some of that digestion. You know, that 10-minute walk after the meals, I think that's something, there's something there to that stuff.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I like, it's just because I got home at 3 today and I just couldn't do it. I got up at 6 and I was like, I can't do it. I'm like, normally I do, but I was like, I can't do it. I went to bed at 3, woke up at 6. I'm like, I'm going to get it in today though. So now it's 9 a.m. on the West Coast. So I still owe it. Full disclosure. I just want to let everybody know.
I know we're I know we're running a little late, but I really wanted to talk about this. So maybe I can just pitch it out to you guys and we can talk about it next time.
Let's do it.
But dude, the concept of the enhanced games just like has completely captivated me. I'm so
What's
bought
the
in.
enhanced games?
So the enhanced games, they actually had an episode on Rogan where they explain it in depth. It's really good. Recommend
Yeah, it was
listening
awesome.
to it.
I listened to that. Yeah.
Yeah, but these two guys are essentially going all in on doing the Olympics with no banned
Oh,
substances.
with no PEDs.
No
No
restrictions.
banned substances. So like, but they're taking the, and this was interesting. I just found this out, Dennis. So they're taking the approach of like, not just like go and like it's the Wild West. Like they want to do it like with as much medical oversight and like really with the health of the athlete in mind. Like they don't want you to, their whole argument is that people are doing this anyway. And the reason it's dangerous is because they can't do it with the best doctors or whatever, because everything has to be under the table. So they want to see like, okay, what's actually the limit of human performance while not sacrificing the health of these athletes at all. And as a nice added caveat, they have huge cash prizes for the winners. So that's kind of like their carrot to try and get some of the best athletes to come from like the Olympics where you really don't get paid. People obviously get endorsement deals. And they just put out this 1-hour documentary. It's called 50 meters. I forget the name, but it documents the first swimmer that like went on to this like full protocol. They don't go into the details of the protocol for obvious reasons, but is on this full protocol to try and break the like 10-year, 15-year, 50-meter freestyle record. And it's like an older swimmer. He's like 37.
It's like
He's been
Icarus
out of the
style.
game for a while, and he, gets super juiced. And again, I don't know if this stuff is like just exogenous hormones or peptides. I don't think that they're doing any like hardcore stuff that like is ruining their health. Obviously, they go through the documentary that like they're constantly doing like EKGs and like checking like for his heart, like making sure that everything's good. But it was really well done. I'm not going to spoil the ending. It's completely not what you expect. So I really encourage you guys to go watch it. Maybe we'll include.
You sent us that link, right?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
it's 50 meters to history or something, but it's really good. But what I just found out, and this is really interesting from a business perspective, because I started getting emails from them, their whole play is that they're offering now early access for you to get, they're going to be a telehealth company. So what they're doing is like, they're already pitching.
Brilliant.
They're already pitching now. Like
Of
they
course.
hit me up with an email and they're like, be one of the first in 2026 to like get access to like, work with our
always
doctors and like go through the thing. And it's like, oh no.
Yes.
Anyway, it's
Brilliant.
so good.
Of course
So
they
good.
are.
Dude.
Are they specifically focusing on like specific sports? Like I would love to see somebody on as much gear as possible, see how fast they can get like a 100-meter sprint.
They're
or, like,
obviously
something
doing
very
track and
specific.
field.
Yeah.
Like swimming, track and field. I think like Olympic weightlifting, like the strength sports, like those kind of stuff is like what they're going to go all in on.
Yeah.
Because I think you would argue it's where maybe PEDs could have the biggest impact. But
Why not
dude,
let the people at the games, man? Why not let these athletes at the games?
are they doing it anyway?
Probably.
Of course.
There has to be. Of course, there are people at the games who are doing PEDs. Let's not be so fucking naive. When you put a few $100,000 on the line, there's going to be people who are going to try to.
Are you talking about CrossFit games or
Yes.
Olympic games?
CrossFit games?
Both.
CrossFit games.
Oh, yeah, for
both.
sure.
For both.
Well, I
But
mean,
if
it's
you're-
been proven in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Physical performance, wherever physical performance is the paramount thing that helps you win the title or win the money, there will be somebody in the field who will do anything and everything to get to the top of the podium. I don't know who it is. I don't really care who it is. But you can't tell me that, oh, CrossFit's a completely clean sport. Get the fuck out of here. I don't believe
People
I
do
don't believe
it
that.
just to beat their buddy in class.
For sure. Yeah.
You go up,
few marker
10 spots
scratches
on
on
the leaderboard.
Dude, so
Come on,
Expo
Gabe.
marker slashes more.
Like
Gabe, it's
break-
called enhanced games.
It's called the enhanced games. Yeah.
I think these guys are going to crush it because I think
so
people are
too.
just gonna be, because they're calling a duck a duck. Like they're not trying to like, dude, these people are enhanced. It's like in powerlifting. You got guys, you have a like an open or bodybuilding. You have an open class, right? That's like everybody knows is enhanced, and you have like a natural. Dude, the enhanced one, everybody wants to see that because it's like, just crazy, you know?
And I'm telling you, the way they're marketing this, they're going to fucking make a killing. Because I'm telling you, I watched the documentary and then I got the email and I was literally like, shit, I want early access. I'm about to pay 60 bucks.
I'm in. Sign me up.
Like,
Forward me that email, Gabe.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
Smart.
Hey,
man.
so do you think in the future then there'll be like an enhanced games record? So like, let's just say it's Usain Bolt holds the world record for the 100-meter sprint at like 9 seconds and whatever, right? And then that's like the one with the check mark, and then next to it would be like non-check mark would be like Bob Marshall 8 seconds, you know, enhanced.
This gets into like the whole Major League Baseball steroid era. How much do those records count? Type of argument. Should these guys be in the Hall of Fame? I like this conversation a lot because I think I have a different opinion than a lot of people on this. Those records count, bro. They count.
Dude, of course they do.
Of course they count.
How about when you start putting like robotic pieces into a human? Then where does that come in?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's going to get really weird in like 10, 20 years. It's
How
going to be
enhanced
more than
robotic
just
are-
injectable BPC 157. It's going to be like humanoids.
Well, that was the argument with like
And
people
genetics out of the box.
Genetic engineering. Yeah, it's going to be wild
right?
stuff.
Getting LASIK to enhance your eyesight for things like golf and baseball. Like, is that performance enhancing? Certainly is. For
Sure, of course.
Like when you're talking about milliseconds worth of detecting an object through space hurtling at you at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Would make sense to me.
And then I remember, this was in The Rise of Superman, Dennis. Like the flip side of the argument too. That's a book, really good read for anyone that wants it. There they also talk about like performance enhancing drugs also being like, if you think about it a different way, they actually level the playing field because a lot of the guys that win these things like have unfair advantage, but it's a natural advantage. And they had this example of the guy who holds all these records in cross country skiing has like a genetic disorder that gives him like X amount more red blood cells than anyone else. So he just has like a machine that like you can't compete with unless you're on EPO, right? So it's kind of like, what is really quote unquote leveling the playing field? Because how are you ever going to beat the guy who just happened to have a genetic disorder that doesn't negatively impact his life? It actually gives him like just an extra, two gears. Is quote unquote leveling the playing field, letting everybody use exogenous substances potentially to just get at the same point where it does now mean, okay, who's got it come competition day.
Right.
Well, the one of the things that's interesting is like the more naturally occurring synthetic hormones and synthetic substances. So like supplementing with testosterone or peptides or blood doping, those are really hard to detect in tests about whether or not these are natural gains or whether or not these are like you need a long history of tests.
Yeah.
You need a super long history of tests. You need to look for anomalies, but then you'd also need to discount the fact that this person didn't do or change something within their system that led to these increases in testosterone, whatever other hormone or levels of their blood, or like oxygenated levels of their blood, or VO2 max or whatever. So there's definitely people out there who are using those things currently, which I think are almost completely banned across the board. By what is that? What's the governing body?
USADA.
USADA,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, do the blood doping, in particular, I'm so excited for the enhanced games, Gabe. Thank you.
It's gonna be cool.
Hey, before we close out, I know we had a challenge.
You guys better have done it.
I don't like the sound of this already.
Mother effers.
No, I did it. I did the challenge.
Jason, you mother effer. 2 weeks, dude.
You know what? My camera keeps shutting off because it's so frustrated with me that I didn't do the challenge. Oh man,
Dude, I actually have an interesting
I don't
question.
understand.
I have an interesting question for Professor Dennis that I either write down, I'll ask this episode, or I'll ask it next episode.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling.
Are we going to continue to go?
Yeah, just ask it.
So,
Jason
all
can
right.
figure out his camera and
Yeah,
go
Jason-
do a.
Jason gone
Jason,
plaid
go
over here.
run.
What the fuck,
Jason has to
man?
go run out to the gym right now.
I'm gonna
He's
go
gonna
hit
do
the
that
bar
hang.
right
Go-
now.
go
live.
do the
run
dead
for-
hang right now.
Oh, it's only
while
gonna
we
be
keep
30
recording.
seconds.
God
so
damn
my
this.
question here is like,
That was cold.
if you
Saw
are
that video.
setting up in a position of that your body naturally knows and understands as a position of strength. Like, let's say there's an object on the ground, like a heavy rock that weighs 300 pounds, and you're putting it between your legs to try to lift it up. You're getting your arms underneath it. You're creating tension against that stone, and you're trying to press through the earth or press down through the ground and lift that thing up. There's obviously adaptation that's happening when your body is attempting to do that, right?
Sure.
We can all agree, like, when you're attempting to lift up something heavy, you're creating tension. Your body is kind of getting primed to lift this thing up. Whether or not you're successful in lifting it up or not, there's an adaptation that happens.
Yeah.
Is there an adaptation or similar adaptation, or does your body know the difference if you are pretending to lift up something of that same weight or same tension? Like, if you took a PVC pipe and you placed it against your shins and you set your body up like you were trying to create tension to lift a 225-pound barbell off of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
What is the adaptation that happens there, even if there's no weight present? And I understand that you won't be able to replicate all the way up to 400, 500, 600. It's just not possible, because the amount of force you can generate versus nothing versus something is a lot different. But you can certainly get your body into a position where you can put I was trying to think about, like, how tense am I right now and what would I be able to lift in this position? It felt about 225 pounds worth. So what's happening to the body there with zero external load, but the body tense and pushing through the ground like you are moving an external load?
Yeah, no, I mean, you can definitely create an adaptation with that just by creating and simulating creating the amount of tension required to lift weight. You can, obviously, you're going to be limited in terms of how much you can actually create. I mean, you could probably build up a lot of tension with practice, and I mean, like, really deliberate practice over time, getting really good at it. You could probably create a ton of tension that replicates lifting a lot of weight. And with that, if you do it regularly, you'll definitely create a stimulus that would force some sort of gain in strength and possibly, like, hypertrophy just by doing that, for sure. I mean, that's like an old school technique that people have been doing forever, really. I mean,
Did you see that video of the guy in jail? He was grabbing, like, the bar, and he was, like, pulling against the bar. Like, I was watching this thing, like, he was creating tension against, like, a fixed object.
Yeah. Overcoming isometrics is a really fairly well accepted strength development tool that people utilize, and that, I mean, that's typically done with load. But the load is not moving. You're just trying to move it as hard as you can. But you can definitely replicate that without any kind of weight.
So where this came to me is I was in the sauna like a couple of weeks ago, and I was just kind of like moving around and stretching. And the sauna at LA Fitness has like the elevated benches, the low benches, and then the floor, right? And I was on the elevated seat where I could reach underneath and grab like the board of the frame of the seat, right? So I was sitting down on top, but I could reach underneath, and my arms were the same distance almost as if a barbell was there. And I was like, this is really interesting, right? Like, I can't lift up this entire fucking sauna, but I can put my body into a position here where I feel like I'm lifting my max deadlift 100%. And I did like 10 reps like that. 10 reps of setting up into a sumo deadlift, trying to essentially lift the entire sauna. And I held that for like 10 seconds each rep. And I am telling you, I was like, that felt like I just tried to lift the heaviest deadlift I've ever lifted in my life.
Sure.
It was just really interesting to me. Whereas I had this breakthrough, and I was like, what if I try that with the PVC? What happens there? I don't know. Just stuff that I was experimenting with, but it was interesting.
Yeah, I think it would be more effective if there is actual load involved that you're not able to lift. But I think you can recreate it, fairly similarly without any kind of weight as well. That's like an old school. Sorry, that's like an old school bodybuilding practice too. Just flexing, just posing and flexing. Frank Zane was famous for doing that like hours a day, just like a full posing routine, just to activate the muscle, gain control over it. And
Hard.
swore that
Romad was all about that. Hani, Gabe. He would have you do reps, then reps, then reps. Then he would drop you down and just hold flexes. It was terrible. It was very difficult. Okay, so full disclosure on this challenge. No, I did not hang. I did not hang. Dude, we got to start having like some type of penalty. And I'm actually admitting, two things. I'm bringing it forward. We got to start having some type of penalty because this is getting ridiculous.
Go do it.
And a lot of times it's my fault. So I'm taking ownership here and saying
we're live
that,
right now. Go do it. Go hang. You're not going to be more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That's for damn sure.
If I had a pull-up bar in here right now, I would show y'all how I can get at least 6 minutes. At least.
No way. There's no way.
With your feet on the
No
ground.
way.
With my feet on the ground, yeah.
I wonder how long you can hang when the consequences were dire versus the consequences being your feet are going to hit just the ground of your gym floor.
Dude,
like, could you hang on if like you were like a pit of lions underneath you? How much longer? I think it's
one of those things that's like saying that like, oh, if I get in a fight, I'm going to see red and do it. I think like your body's capable. Maybe you'll have an extra a little bit, but
No way.
I don't know if it matters. What, you think is different, Gabe?
100%. I mean, this goes to like this 100% goes to the Endure book. I think that you can hang for like 3 times what you do just because you're trying to beat a bunch of buddies if like the stakes were super high and whatever. 100%.
I think if life and limb were on the line, you'd be able to hang for longer.
You
know that there's a safe fall there. So as soon as it got like very uncomfortable for me to hang, I dropped. I was like, that's enough. But I mean, if my life was on the line, I'd probably want to hang for a little bit longer, for sure.
And it's really interesting too, because this was in this book, and then we did this Ironman relay over the weekend, which we can talk about next week. But that's also interesting why in those types of races, and I'm sure that with the bar, like if we had a bunch of people do it, the scores tend to crowd around the big numbers because everyone kind of has something in their head.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It'll
I'm
be
going
like
2 minutes.
Everyone's almost at a minute 30, 2 minutes, 2:30, but no one's at like 2:17. No one's at like 2:18. Like those are really hard. In the marathon, that tends to be a huge thing. Everyone falls in like around the 3 hour, then around 3:10, then around 3:20. And that's 100% in here because you were either shooting for that time and went right under or right over, or you knew your pace wasn't going to go, so you just went to the next interval instead of just keep continuing to try your hardest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I didn't use any. I don't have any gymnastics chalk at my apartment right now.
Oh, the excuses.
No excuses. No excuses. I think that not excuses. My time was, I think, 1 minute and 57 seconds this morning when I did it. I think with chalk you can go longer. I also saw this device. This is really interesting. There's a thing that I saw on Instagram the other day that these guys are selling now that like it creates like a little lump in your palm. It's like a little like almost looks like a grip for a rock climbing, and you put it in your palm and you're essentially able to like hook grip underneath a heavier dumbbell for longer. So it's able to create like a false grip on the dumbbell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can hold that dumbbell, that 100-pound dumbbell, 120-pound dumbbell for far longer. I thought that was really interesting that popped up when we were considering this challenge.
Wait, so you guys going to tell your scores? Or
yeah,
we
should just share scores because I don't think Jason's going to beat us anyway. I was a little nervous about this one because I feel like I use straps a lot to train. I was happy with my score. I'll put mine out first. I went 2:07.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Wait, no, he already said he got 157.
I got 1:57.
Oh,
I got 1:57, and I dropped as soon as it was like, "Ooh, I feel like my forearms are getting uncomfortable."
No, I'll send you my video. I was like,
fighting for it?
have to get 2 minutes. I have to get 2 minutes. And then Ariel was actually doing time check for me, and she did me the favor of she didn't tell me right at 2 minutes. She kind of didn't say anything, and then I was like, it has to be 2 minutes already because she like last time check was 1:50. So I got a little bit of extra. Going back to the mental point, literally because
of that
I
extra
didn't know.
time.
Yeah, shout out Bloom. What'd you get, Dan?
229.
Oh wow, that's really
Bastard.
good. That's really good.
You
That's
fucking
significantly
crushed
good.
this one.
I was hoping for 3.
When did you do it during the day, Dennis?
Late morning, I guess it was.
I'm gonna retest this later. So I did this at around 8:30, but right before getting on the podcast. 8:30.
Not usually the time you train.
No, I didn't train. I didn't really do anything to warm up. I didn't shake out my forearms neurologically. My grip was not. When you just hold your hands and you're like, wow, I don't feel like I have grip. I was kind of I felt okay, but not great. I think this heavily depends on how you're feeling neurologically before you do it.
Yeah.
Going into it, just grip wise. Because I think you could hold on for a lot longer if your CNS is not is primed for this.
Well, grip strength's one of the best indicators for training, how ready you are to train, hit it hard. I was actually looking at Amazon the other day. I was going to buy, I might do it and talk about it on the podcast.
Oh, those little.
Yeah, and it tells you how many pounds, just because I've seen there's so many viral videos now where they have different athletes test their grip strength.
Yeah, those are
but what
fun.
I want to start doing is like plotting every single day. And then I was looking it up. I was doing some research, and the way you would do it is you would plot like 2 weeks of it to get a baseline, and then anything within 10% drop is like, okay, you're good to train. Anything beyond 10% of a drop, and you do this every morning as soon as you wake up, is like a pretty good indicator to either take a rest day or kind of just peel back a little bit in terms of like where your central nervous system is for training readiness.
So I've got one of those old school the steel
metal
kind of
one.
grip trainers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It ended up in my truck like a week and a half ago. And what I've been doing more recently, haven't done every time, but every time I remember when I see it, it's like right in my glove, right, like not in the glove box, but like right in the cup holder. I do 10 squeezes before I start driving on my right and left. And then when I stop driving, 10 squeezes right and left. And then I just walk out of the car. So I'm going to see how like improving my grip strength just by training it that way, getting some reps in will help.
I'm going to order one of those. I like that. It's good. Okay. I owe the hang challenge. Current leaderboard is Dennis, Gabe,
229.
MDV. I think MDV's got a lot more in the tank, but you know,
We'll see. I did
we'll
it.
see.
That's my score. My score is 157. I'll try it again to see if I can go longer, but based on the challenge, that's my submitted
Yeah,
score.
this one's over. I won. I want to see the graphic with me on top of it, with my picture, with the video, with all sorts of
The
likes
graphic.
and people celebrating me on social media. You don't get to redo it. You don't get to come back next week and beat my score. That's it. It's done.
Wait, Gabe got a mulligan to redo, right?
Oh,
Gabe got the redo mulligans.
Full disclosure, mine's gonna be garbage. But I am gonna do
yours is
it.
gonna
I
be
will do it
hot
today, and
garbage.
I'll message you guys. Before we close out, just a quick reminder for everybody that's on the Train Hard app. If you're not on the Train Hard app, I don't know what to tell you. It has the best programs with the best community, especially if you're a guy out there who wants to level up. Join us. We have Vegas Men's Club coming up. If you're in the Bay Area, join us here. We have more to come. But we're going to be reading a book. It's called Let Them by Mel Robbins. Our 45-day challenge ends June 15th. So the Let Them by Mel Robbins, that is going to be the book that we're going to be reading. MDV's holding it up right there. And we're going to be having a kind of like a session just to kind of talk about it coming up in July. So make sure you're on the app. Check out the community section. Those are in the podcast show notes. But if you're a guy out there and you're already on the path, but you want to get a little bit better, you want to be like-minded with other like-minded guys, join us because what we're doing is very, very special. Gentlemen, I took a loss this week on the hang. I probably would have taken a loss anyways, but now I feel like honestly, I feel pretty bad about myself. I haven't done burpees and I lost the challenge, but I am going to redeem myself today. And this has been a very fun conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, for our first live, I know we went a little bit over, but I just want to say thank you so much for being along this journey with us. We are on a mission to level ourselves up and level as many people up as possible, specifically men who want to be able to go out there and level up as husbands and fathers. So join us on the
Train,
Train Hard app,
protect,
join us on the
provide.
podcast,
Let's go.
and keep sharing it with different friends. Let's keep getting it.